From the bar to the black box. Today, I will be sitting and talking with a gentleman whose very voice and presence commands a lot of attention to the screen that he's in and to the stage that he's on. The one and only Chacko Vadaketh. Now, academically, he was trained for courtroom drama. Where he eventually went and made himself a successful brand is in theatre drama. So get ready for a high-impact conversation as we dissect the drama of Malaysian performing arts. What would you tell me if I tell you that I'm not a local cinema content consumer? I only go watch movies that are, I get a lot of word of mouth saying that this is very good, you should check it out, Otherwise, I wouldn't go to the cinema to watch a local content. But we need to support the local art scene. So what would you tell me for me to change my perspective on the local content? Because I have an image of local cinema being the production value is not up to par, having been exposed to other content. I have an understanding that the type of stories they take is not going to appeal to me. But that being said, I've been very impressed by people like, I just told you, Blood Brothers, Jagat, Abang Adik, and also the work that Yasmin Ahmad had done.
Yeah, Yasmin Ahmad somehow managed to get out there. She had a following, but she's an art house film,
Yeah,
her films are art house.
But you see, that is what you've seen movies like, I can't remember the movie's name right now, but a lot of the movies that come from Brazil are very art house oriented. A lot of movies from Germany are very art house oriented. It's not mainstream blockbuster sort of a thing. And that was Yasmin Ahmad for me when she did things like Talent Time, Sepet. I can't remember the second one that she did between Talent Time and Sepet. I can't remember that one, but
the Orchid trilogy, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
That somehow had a following, and I remember being in college at that time, and it was heavily promoted because it was Yasmin Ahmad.
Yeah. So she was quite smart because she'd made a name for herself with the Petronas ads, right? For Merdeka, she always made, and it became like, what is Yasmin going to produce next, And from that, she made a name, and then when she started making feature films, people said, okay, if she makes great ads, which always tell a story, and it's a story about maybe non-mainstream people, then I'm sure she can tell a good story. And she did tell a good story. So that helped a lot.
Okay, that's good.
But today, as you say, I'd say, well, go to Netflix and watch local films there.
Yep.
And then, and you're watching it on your little TV screen. So when there's a new Malaysian film coming out, go to the cinema and watch it there. It's a whole different experience.
Absolutely.
When you see it on a big screen. So now that you've, Blood Brothers is good, maybe the next scope production, you might say, okay, it's worth going to the cinema. Or Jagat was good. So he's got two films. I think his his first new film is already in cinemas right now. You've just reminded me that I must try and catch it.
Okay.
And then in early December, the third film. So they both opened in Rotterdam at the Rotterdam Festival and had very good reaction or reception. So we must go and see it in the big screen. And the thing is, once you see it in the big screen, if you get the numbers there, then that has a cumulative effect. It's easier to say sell it to Netflix or etc. So we need to support that. And there are other films. There are fun films. I mean, maybe not technically Malaysian, but like La Luna, which is Malaysian actors, but it's Singapore director.
Oh, is it? Okay,
and quite interesting, last year, La Luna, which is a Malay film, was Singapore's submission to the Oscars. And Abang Adik, which is a Chinese film, was Malaysia's submission to the Oscars. Right. And that just shows both countries are so diverse and both are equally Malaysian or Singaporean.
But very proud of this content that is getting international recognition. So, in line with what you said about supporting local content, what have you seen on Netflix that was produced and made in Malaysia that you would recommend?
Well, I just mentioned La Luna, which is filmed in Malaysia with Malaysian actors, but it's a Singapore director, so it's classified as a Singapore film, but it's probably a co-production.
All right.
Paskal is one of the big early blockbusters, Adrian Tay, and and then I was in a film of his after that called The Assistant.
Right.
And that's also, he's also like, if you like action and thriller, and it's beautifully, The Assistant shows kind of the underworld of Kuala Lumpur, and
Really?
it's quite beautiful. It's also quite brutal.
And it's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix.
Good.
Yeah.
The Assistant.
The Assistant.
Okay,
Yeah. Series, again, I mean, I happen to be in it in a couple of episodes, is The Bridge, and that was primarily Malaysian, but Malaysian-Singapore co-production.
Okay.
Bron Palare is the star, Rebecca Wong, I think, from Singapore.
Yeah.
So it's a dead body's found on the second link.
Okay.
Half the bodies in Malaysia, half the bodies in Singapore.
Oh.
So these two kind of mismatched detectives, one from Singapore, one from Malaysia, have to work together.
Very interesting.
And it's a serial killer. It's actually originally a Danish-Swedish production called The Bridge, and they franchised it out.
Oh,
so we did the Asian production. There's one in called The Tunnel, which is between UK and France, and it's found in the Channel. The dead bodies in the Channel, exactly between the jurisdiction of France and the jurisdiction of the UK. So that's and each murder is a serial killer. Each murder is to teach society a lesson, and it's actually been very well received.
I want to take a short break to tell you that this segment is brought to you by our sponsor, PRR Elite. They are an agency to ensure that your business is not stuck in the past. Whether you need custom application or software development, or simply a good SEO strategy that lands you well on a Google page, PRR Elite helps you master that technology and drive you to success. So get the cutting-edge digital training that you need for your business with the professionals at PRR Elite. I'm sure they're more than happy to help you to go through your digital presence and look for ways to better it and look for ways to enhance it. I will leave more details about PRR Elite in the description down below. You moved from the Malaysian art scene, and then you went to the Singapore art scene, and then you went to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
What do you think are the professional and production differences that you see in these three environments?
Oh gosh. Well, in Malaysia, I was first working as a lawyer and acting on the side. Then I kind of went to try to go to full time, and that was when I also went to Singapore, because Singapore, it was booming, and there was a lot more opportunities for English language stuff. So they have a whole. Channel 5, I think all of Channel 5 is English. So all the shows there are in English. And then theatre also, English is much more prevalent there. And then, of course, a lot of people speak Chinese. So Channel 8 there is in Mandarin.
Right.
So it's more of an industry there than it is here, especially theatre, from the theatre perspective. And then when I went there, I fell into Mr. Kiasu as a TV, but everybody flits between English language theatre, English language TV, and then maybe the odd film, etc. But it's a bigger industry here, the film industry, because there's more people. The Malay speaking industry, the Malay film industry is big, and people can make a lot of money. And obviously, in recent productions like Blood Brothers, I think it got 60 million at the box office, and Mat Kila got 90 million. And Agent Ali as an animation also made, I think it was around the 60s. I think it's done very, very well. It's beat a lot of international animation films. So animation is also, I think the quality of animation is very, very good now.
Our quality of animation. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's another aspect of film. So the difference is, of course, LA is a whole different ball game, and it's such a huge industry. But I think anywhere you go, it's always a struggle. Over here, because it's say the theatre scene is so small, so how to get work, because there isn't that much work.
Yeah.
Over there, there's a lot of work happening, but the whole world is there trying to compete.
Yep.
So you say, every waiter you meet is an aspiring actor.
Yes.
And they're all trying to get, either first get an agent or a manager, and then get an audition, and then from the audition try and get a role, etc. So it's a tough industry, but the scale of it is huge.
Was it difficult as a foreigner in LA?
Yeah, I mean, it's full of foreigners, or people are from all over America as well.
Right.
So it's a very sort of transient population, but you have to get the visa. So I managed to get an O1 visa. I went there for a summer program actually, and then got hooked there.
But how do you get work as a foreigner? I mean, when you watch a lot of Hollywood movies, back in the 70s and 80s, they reserved roles, non-American roles for villains and sidekicks. Was it the same when you had gone?
It's
2009,
changed.
Was it? You went?
I went 2000. I was there from 2009 to 2000, the end of 2014.
Yeah.
So about 5 years, yeah.
Okay.
And
was work hard to come by when?
Yeah, it's very tough. I mean, first you have to try and get an agent or a manager, which I managed to. I'd gone there for a summer program.
Yeah.
So I got an Astro ambassador kind of grant. And I really I produced the Opera, which we thought would take 6 months, took a year and a half.
Okay.
And after that, I got this grant, and I thought I'd use that to kind of recover from doing the Opera, which we did at Istana Budaya, and that's, we sold out the whole run. But then while I was there, and I was doing a summer program that I found online, and luckily turned out to be very good. And that was kind of the business of how to break into Hollywood. So they told you how to get headshots, how to do your bio, and then they had acting classes, but they had on-camera classes, just acting classes, and casting directors would come, and you'd be taught by the casting directors, this is what they're looking for and things. So it was fascinating, and discovering LA was wonderful with people, and our classmates were from all over the world. So it was one of the best summers in my life. Yeah.
What professional values can we take from there and maybe implement here in the performing arts scene?
Just being professional, like being on time and things like that.
Which I'm quite sure they're also not on time.
Where?
In LA?
No.
They're all on time?
You have to be, you have to. I mean, because it's so competitive that if the moment, there's always like 10 other actors waiting to take your role.
Sure.
And time is money, right? So you have to, and just getting to auditions, getting to being prepared for the audition. I mean, and people are constantly taking ongoing classes. So even the top actors are always having classes. So they all have an acting coach.
That's a good takeaway, actually.
So you're constantly honing your skill. And and I found that recently I had to memorize something. I was doing a show. We did the YTL 70th anniversary, and I was narrating the show, and then trying to memorize it. I said, "Gosh, it's so hard to memorize, because I'm out of touch." Right. Whereas in LA, I was doing on-camera acting, so every week I'd have to memorize a script, because they send it to you like maybe 2 days before your class, and to memorize it and be ready to perform the next in 2 days' time. And so now it's like a muscle that you have to keep working acting skills. Whereas I don't do that here. So I found trying to memorize is suddenly, oh gosh, I have to get it to stick. Maybe I'm getting older as well.
I after learning the performing arts scene and also preparing for this interview, I think I always felt that the overall theme is that someone in the Malaysian scene should step up, consider this as their core calling, and then go ahead and reform the performing arts scene in Malaysia, whether it's in terms of facilities, funding, cultural policy, regulations, and make us that performing arts scene that is able to put us on a global standing. Pretty much what the Esplanade in Singapore did that conscious and calculated.
Well,
decision.
Esplanade is a structure. I mean, it's a theatre.
but
But
we
I think
need
that's
someone-
the National Arts Council is what they've done that, and they provide funding. The theatre companies there can go to international you can apply for funding to go overseas. The Singapore Arts Festival is a big festival.
Right.
You have a lot of international acts coming. So there's a lot of cross fertilization, so that it's very vibrant. You have a lot of exposure to that. So over here, I don't know whether there are attempts like under 5 Arts. We've got an Artist Proactive. They've or Artsy Fartsy, there are groups that are trying to do this.
Okay.
We recently had a gathering, and they were saying, they came out with a petition to ask for changes in the arts, saying, have a more obvious policy and where the arts should be, and more access to funding, more access, things like that. And then more recently, there's another group led by Teo Ming Jin that are also trying to setting up a group to be an advocate for the arts,
Okay.
to reform the arts, maybe take it to the next level. But as far as I know, we don't have a national arts policy. So like a DASA, like all our government things, they have DASAs.
Yes.
So I don't think there's a DASA for culture and the arts, kesenian and kebudayaan and things. And one of the issues could be, and I think that's one of the problems, funding is an issue. Another thing is that we're becoming more conservatively Islamic. And so that's why, I said like Mak Yong has been banned, Wayang Kulit is perceived to be un-Islamic because it's talking about Hindu epics and so on. But it actually, you're not saying they're gods and gods. It's a Hindu mythology, you can view it as that.
Right.
I grew up in a Christian background, but we used to all read the Ama Kada Chitra, these are like comic books, but they're all about the Hindu myths,
Right.
So we loved it, and so I have a affinity to that, but I don't believe that, for me, I look at it as like fairy stories, but they're wonderful stories, but there's also a lot of lessons that you can learn from it, but there is this, I think that's an issue about what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, what is, I think there's some people who feel women shouldn't be on stage, that's un-Islamic, they shouldn't perform. And things like that. Or can you perform without your head being covered, if you don't wear the... So it's sensitive, it's difficult, it's tricky, but I think we need to go through it, or to say that, your faith and how you express that faith is your own thing. There are different ways of expressing, different ways that are acceptable, but Islam has a broad range which different people can find acceptable, and we need to just say, if that's what you think is correct for you, then go ahead and do it, without being offensive or being vulgar, etc.
Which is why I said that I think when I used to watch TV in the past, I don't see many of these sort of controls, or like you watch something like Pimai Pimai Tangtu or Jangan Ketawa, you don't see people saying the women shouldn't be going up and performing, or you need to be if you are, you need to be,
I don't know if people say it, but that, I mean,
you were there
in the 80s and things. I mean the whole say the Malay way of culture, the Malay culture has evolved and changed. So I think when I was growing up, people didn't wear the tudung or the hijab. It just wasn't the Malay way of dressing. Whereas it has become it's prevalent now. Obviously there's a range, and some people don't, some people do, but I think the majority do. So it's I guess all cultures change, and that's been a major change, and how conservatively it's the Wahhabization of the Malay culture.
If you think that this conversation that I had with Chacko could be of value to someone, could help someone who is considering a career in performing arts, then do share this with them. As Chacko said, the future lies in the hands of those artistically brave and professionally savvy. Hope you enjoyed this conversation, and I'll see you in my next episode. Until then, you've been watching Unfiltered Business. My name is Josh G.